Good afternoon, y'all. I say good afternoon, y'all. Okay, so I give presentations on a regular basis. I've been doing this for the last 20 years, but today I'm nervous. I haven't been nervous to give a presentation in a long time, so I'm just going to ride with that feeling and see how it feels. So I've been asked to share my story to kick things off, and if that's okay with you, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to need a volunteer, though. Okay, all you have to do is sit there and listen very intently. So I'm old, I've damaged the hell out of my brain over the years, and while I'm talking, sometimes I forget where I'm going. What was I just saying? I forget my last train of thought. So it's up to you to remember what the hell I said. All right, so the word of the day is genetic predisposition. I can actually think of a lot of words that today is feeling, but we're not going to go down that path. Deep breath. So genetic predisposition. Obviously, you guys know what that means. That means that my mom was using drugs when she was pregnant with me. She found out she was pregnant and she literally stopped using drugs that day. Back in this the late 60s, the drugs were much different than they are today. They were doing cross tops and blacks and uppers and downers. And my mom worked in clubs, so she liked to stay awake. So she ate the little pills that gave you energy. Today, we look at it as methamphetamine. So the day she stopped using, the day she found out she was pregnant, she stopped using drugs that day. But I was already in the womb getting, the residual effects of her behavior. So it's no surprise and no shock that I turned out to be a drug addict. I just celebrated, I don't even really celebrate anymore, but it's worth mentioning. I just celebrated 25 years clean a week ago. Yeah, a week ago, October 25th. So to kind of tell you to kick off my story a little bit, my mom, like I mentioned, she worked in the clubs. She used to like to get high. She had me. She stopped using drugs that day. She got pregnant again. She had my sister. She was still clean and sober. She was able to maintain that sobriety for her whole entire life after that. But with that being said, my life was affected very negatively by the genetic predisposition. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit to high school. High school, I was a senior in high school, and I started experimenting with drugs. I had smoked pot a little bit earlier than that, but I started doing real drugs in high school. Tried cocaine, did methamphetamine, lots and lots of LSD. But I feel fine, honest. I feel fine. So, eventually, and it wasn't very long after I started using cocaine in particular, that my addiction went from just recreation use to addiction. It was a fun weekend warrior thing until it wasn't. And next thing you know, my whole entire life revolved around making sure that I could go get more money so I could go get more cocaine. That was the beginning of the end for me. It was a slow spiral downhill. It didn't take too long to crash and burn. I've been to jail more times than I can count. I've been to prison 5 times. The last time I was in the penitentiary and I got out was October 13th, 1998, and I've never looked back since then. When I got out of prison, my first opportunity to work in the field, actually, let me back up real quick. While I was incarcerated, I was introduced to a program called Phoenix House. Phoenix House saved my life. It was a program that was inside Corcoran State Prison. At the time, Phoenix House had 1 yard, Walden House had another yard, and it was a competition in contracts to see who could do the best work. I believe Phoenix House ended up winning, but while I was there, at the same exact time, Robert Downey Jr. was actually on the Walden House side. So we were in prison together, and we both made it out, except he became Iron Man, and, we all know the story there. But so while I was incarcerated, I had an opportunity to work. They pretty much mandate you to work. But I had an opportunity to work. Instead of working in the kitchen, I had an opportunity to be an inmate facilitator. In Phoenix House, they had inmate facilitators who walked back and forth, much like I'm doing now. And they used to just facilitate groups that were given to us by the staff. It was really, really cool, because here I am, my 5th and final time in the penitentiary, and I'm used to just chaos, chaos of San Quentin, chaos of Corcoran, chaos of Dual Vocational Institution in Tracy, literal chaos. So to go to a program like this or a penitentiary like this, it was amazing. It was eye-opening. It gave me an opportunity to focus on myself instead of focus on survival. Uh, there was a gentleman that was an inmate facilitator. His name was Harold Seabram Jr. Never forget that, brother. He was an ex-military police officer who went rogue, as they'd say, and he ended up in the penitentiary. He was an inmate facilitator, and I had a lot of respect for this gentleman, the way he conducted himself, the way he carried himself. And one day after group, he came up to me and he said, "Hey, Mr. Brewster, how'd you get here?" And I just looked at him like he was crazy, because there's certain questions that you don't ask in there. You don't talk about certain things. But I went ahead and I bit. I said, "I like to get high, bro." And he said, "You know what? You in a place that you could change your life." And I said, "Okay, thanks, man. I appreciate that." So I went back to my cell that night and I sat there, Now mind you, I'm in Phoenix House. They have all kinds of happy shit, excuse my language, happy stuff on the wall, to make you feel good, to make you feel better and inspired. Yeah, whatever. But above my door, there were some words that said, "If not here, when?" Or "If not here, where?" "If not now, when?" So every time I walk into my door, I'd read those words, and something clicked in me that night. I'm not a religious dude, but divine intervention happened. Something happened to where the next day when I went to class, instead of slouching in my chair like I always did because I didn't care, this was normal. The next day, I automatically stood straighter, sat straighter in my chair, and my spine was erect. I stared forward. I looked him in the eyes. I listened to what he had to say. When he asked questions at the end, I raised my hand because I had the answers. I just chose not to talk about them. Just like the rest of my peers, we had the answers. We just chose not to act on them. So again, something profound happened to me that night. And the next day, I was a different person. And it's literally profound, because I knew who I was the night before, but the next day I was literally changed. And I didn't really do anything except read that saying above my door and went to sleep. But the next day, something different happened. I kept my hand raised. Every time somebody asked a question, I wanted to participate. I wanted to answer. I wanted to make sure that I was participating in my recovery. So after a few weeks of that, the same gentleman, Harold Seabram Jr., comes up to me and says, "Hey, you know what, good brother? We got a job opening in here." Job opening. I said, "Oh, is that right? A job opening, huh?" He's like, "Yeah, shoot me a resume." Number one, I don't know how to type. Number two, I'm in the penitentiary. I don't have a resume. And he said, "Well, go talk to that guy. He'll hook you up with one." Sure enough, I went over there and I talked to this guy, and he put together this super basic, ridiculous resume that said my name and, like a couple jobs that I had had over the years. And I actually had to interview for the job, and I got the job. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because here I stand in front of you 23 years later, walking back and forth. My thumbs don't have burn marks on them from smoking cocaine. My mind is clear. I have a 19-year-old daughter. I own a home. And I have a job that's fulfilling, that brings me joy on a daily basis. By assisting others, I'm assisting myself every single day. And eventually it becomes so normal that you got it, you get it. And now you're just going to walk your path in grace. You dig? So I say all that to say this: folks can change, folks can get better. If you know folks that are out there struggling, obviously you're not the kind of people that are just going to shake your head and walk away, or you wouldn't be in this room. But understand, recognize, and realize that folks change, and with some guidance and some love, they can get better. I want to back up real quick and tell a little piece about my story that I forgot to mention. So when I was in kindergarten, my mom married this dude. He was 6'8", 300 pounds, big brother, and he hated me. So he used to whoop my ass on a regular basis. But he loved my little sister. Loved her, never put a hand on her, which is a blessing. In Corcoran, I had Mr. Lomax, 6'8", 300 pounds. He was a nurturer. And he dressed like he was fresh out of the pages of GQ magazine. Oh, this brother was amazing. He was amazing. He had a deep voice, and everything he said, you wanted to stop and listen to make sure you heard it because you knew damn good and well it was valuable. You might not get it right now, but you knew it was valuable, so you want to take it and put it in your back pocket and save it for later. So Mr. Lomax became my counselor, and I got literally butt naked with him. And I don't mean literally, I mean, sharing my soul with this man. And I shared with him that I was scared to go home. Now, mind you, I had been to prison 5 times. 4 times I got out and I failed miserably. This 5th time, I was scared. Normally, you're happy, you're excited, you can't wait. You count the days, you mark off the calendar. But this time, I was scared to death to go home because I knew I was coming back. I knew I was coming back. I'm a 4-time loser. I'm definitely coming back 5 times. I'm definitely coming back again. And I explained all this to him. I said, Mr. Lomax, I'm scared. This is my normal pattern. This is my normal routine. And he's like, oh gosh, I don't feel comfortable talking about some of the things that the man told me to tell you because the way where I'm leading is, can we talk? Are we friends in here? We can talk? Okay. So I'm going to share. So normally when people are in prison, the one thing they think about is getting with the opposite sex or whoever, whatever floats your boat as soon as you get out and knock the rust off that thing. So this was also my plan, and when I do these the 4 times previously, I go to places that aren't necessarily conducive to meeting a healthy, positive relationship. And I find myself in sticky situations, bad situations. Next thing you know, I'm right back where you started from, avoiding parole, avoiding probation, running from the law, committing crimes. So this time I wanted to do something different. I said, Mr. Lomax, this is what I do. Please give me some game. What do you suggest? He said, Mr. Brewster, because he had that voice. Mr. Brewster, when you get home this time, go on and get you a magazine, son. Magazine, because I want to make sure. No, I'm good. I'm good. Oh, it's recorded? Okay. I apologize. So I wanted to make sure that, I took his words into consideration. So instead of getting a magazine, he said, I went and got 2. I wanted to make sure that I was safe. Luckily for me, I ended up meeting a beautiful young lady who lived up in the Western Addition, somebody I went to high school with. We had reconnected while I was incarcerated. We got out. We went on a date. I didn't go get drunk. Didn't go get high. It was a regular date. And, I ended up falling in love with this girl, and the rest is history about that part. It didn't last long, but it was a great segue to how normal people live. Okay. So, anyway, that's kind of enough about my story. I could go on for at least another 13 minutes, but I'm going to stop there. Um, again, it's important to remember that when you're working with young people who are facing challenging situations, or even older people, given some love, compassion, and some guidance, they can also get better. I've seen it. I've been doing this work for 23 years, so I know that it's true. Like I mentioned, when I started my career 23 years ago, I was at Walden House. Maybe I didn't say that yet. Maybe I just thought it. 23 years ago, the very first place I got a job fresh out of the penitentiary was Walden House. I was living in Suisun. I lived with my mom. I came home and I humbled myself. I moved back in with my mom because it was a safe place. I found this job up in San Francisco, living in Suisun, entry-level counselor at Walden House. I'm like, that's me. I'm an entry-level counselor. So called them. They're like, yeah, send us your resume. There's that resume. But this time I actually had a resume. So I sent them my resume. They called me a couple days later, and I took the Amtrak train from Suisun to Emeryville. And then I took the Greyhound bus. And then I took the bus up to uh, Townsend Street. And I had an interview. 4 days later, they call me back for a second interview. What did I do? I get back on the train in Suisun and take it all the way to Emeryville. And then I go across the bridge on the bus and I go to 815 Buena Vista West, which is where I started my career. I love that house. It's still up there in the hills. It's an old nun convent. It has 100 beds. It's co-ed, and they do beautiful, amazing work. So that's where I started my career. And now here we are, 23 years later, I'm back with the company that gave me my start, except now they're called HealthRIGHT 360. So during those 23 years, I've done a lot of different work at different CBOs throughout San Francisco and Alameda County. And I found my passion. I love what I do. I get to help people. And again, while I'm helping you, I'm helping myself solidify and strengthen the things in my head that I know are going to keep me right. So if we transition to the other reason I'm here is to talk about this new apprenticeship program that I'm running. So there's a problem in San Francisco, specifically with CBOs that are doing clinical work like we are, attracting and finding and keeping good quality workers. Now, mind you, when I started my career 23 years ago at Walden House, all you had to do was be clean and want to help people. That's it. And they hired me. They gave me $10 an hour. But prior to that, in the penitentiary, I was making 10 cents an hour. So you couldn't tell me nothing. I was balling. Now, to be a clinician and to work in the field, you have to be certified. You have to go to school. You got to get a KDAC, a KD, all these different certifications. You have to be registered and have some credits under your belt before they'll even look at you. So with that being said, there have been challenges finding a workforce that is willing to stick and stay, as they say. So what HealthRIGHT 360 decided to do was start an apprenticeship program. They were taking young people with little to no experience or lived experience, and they were giving them an opportunity to train to become a substance abuse counselor. Much different from when I started 23 years ago. You know, now you have to go through, like I said, all these different channels and certifications. And it's a good thing because funding demands that the folks who are doing the service actually know what the hell they're talking about. So there's that. So what we're doing now at HealthRIGHT 360, because our substance abuse program, the apprenticeship, was so successful, we just received a large pot of money to increase our services, to also train case managers and community health workers. So, okay, I guess I should follow the slides. I go off on tangents real easy. So, HealthRIGHT 360, anybody ever heard of us? 2 people, 3 people? You guys know HealthRIGHT? 4 people? Beautiful. So HealthRIGHT 360 used to be called Walden House many years ago. 17 years ago, there was a merger with the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic, and it became HealthRIGHT 360. So not only are they doing substance abuse recovery services, there's also a dental clinic, a mental clinic, a mental health clinic. We have housing. We're all over San Francisco. We're up and down the state of California, all the way down to San Diego now. So there's a lot of opportunities within our agency. So who would like to read? I'm just kidding, we're not doing. So HealthRIGHT 360 gives hope, yada, yada, yada. We include primary medical care, mental health, social services, and reentry, which is how I met Ms. Nicole, addiction treatment services, and dental care. We provide services for anybody who needs help, regardless of your ability to pay for them. So again, we have one medical clinic, 1563 Mission. You guys have driven by it if you live here. It's on the corner of Mission and Van Ness. There's a big old mural on the side of the wall. You've seen it. It says HealthRIGHT is a care, or a right. We have one medical clinic there. There's 3 residential programs throughout San Francisco. We have 4 outpatient programs, co-occurring programs, case management services, outreach and prevention programs, employment, housing, education assistance, and 4 residential step-down programs that are out on Treasure Island. So what is the training and apprenticeship program? It is the case management and the community health worker track is a 3-month program where we're taking folks with little to no experience or lived experience, and we're doing a month straight in person in the classroom of didactic learning. And then phase 2, we place them at a host site. Because we have so many sites throughout San Francisco, we are able to place these apprentices within our own facilities, depending upon whichever career track they're going towards. We are currently in phase 2 of our first cohort right now. So the young people that we're working with are actually out at host sites learning by shadowing the mentors, and we're paying them $20 an hour while they're learning. It's part-time work, and at the end of which, the goal is for us to absorb them within our agency and hire them. We've already got a couple of folks who have already been promised jobs because they've made such a good impression. We have 12 young people, well, 12 people, we'll just call them people because not everybody's young just because I'm old. So we have 12 people that are currently in the class. They're all doing super successfully, and we couldn't be more pleased for a pilot program to be going this well. So we are currently looking for feeder sites. If anybody works with young people or people, let me stop saying young people. If anybody works with, but when you get to be 55, everybody's young. I'm just saying. So we're looking for feeder sites. If you work with folks that are looking for career pathways and you think they might be good at what we do, maybe they want to be a community health worker, maybe they have no idea what it is and they'd like to learn, send them to us. Maybe you're an organization that hires case managers. Maybe you'd be interested in hosting our apprentices. We pay the apprentices while we're there. We even have enough funding set up in our budget where we're able to pay the mentors. So within our agency, we have mentors that for one apprentice, they get an extra $150 every paycheck. So it's $300 a month just for guiding a person. Language is important. For guiding a person and letting them shadow so they can learn the ropes. It's a 3-month program. So they shadow for 2 months, at the end of which they go to work. We also have an additional cohort that is focused on substance abuse disorder treatment. That's a 5-month program. That program is a co-occurring program that happens both in Southern California and Northern California at the same time. It's completely online. And at the end of phase 1, when you hit phase 2, same situation. We're going to place you at one of our host sites or one of our own internal sites so that you can shadow and learn the work. And again, at the end, the idea is for us to hire you. So I was asked to pull up some numbers to show how dire the need is for folks to come into this profession. So the information is about a year old, but what I was able to find last night was between 38 and 51% of the folks that we hire internally leave within the first year. So our organization is doing whatever they can to try to figure out, is it employee satisfaction that's the issue? Is it something that's going on internally? Is it the rate of pay? What is it? So they're doing a lot of work internally to try to figure that out. But what they're also doing is this. They're putting together this apprenticeship program so that we can take folks from all over the city and county of San Francisco, as well as Alameda County, and put them through a program that's going to allow them to become clinicians just like us. It's a beautiful opportunity. It's a fairly quick experience. And again, the most important thing, as far as I'm concerned, having been on both sides of the fence, is we pay them while they're learning. That's important. So it's earn while you learn. Training is available at most of our facilities. And one of the most important things that I can highlight here is that HealthRIGHT is a second chance employer. Otherwise, I wouldn't have this opportunity. So what do we provide? We pay them $20 an hour while they gain entry-level skills. We give them evidence-based introduction to behavioral health treatment, the support of a seasoned mentor and on-site supervisor, on-site experience supporting clients in real time, and career guidance and possible transitions to permanent employment. Notice how we put the possible there to keep us safe? Because not everybody who goes through is going to be able to be in a client-facing role. So especially as a pilot program, we want to make sure that the folks we're working with are appropriate to place in these positions. So we've been a little tight with this particular cohort. We've had to let a couple people go. But the folks that we have now are super, super solid. So the role of the apprentice is just to participate in regular meetings, participate in evidence-based training, shadow the certified mentor, attend meetings, provide support, observe the daily activities, and receive an introduction to documentation. Things have changed a lot since I was doing case management. When I was doing entry-level case management at Walden House as an entry-level counselor, we had paper files. They looked very, very, very similar to this. And there was, you know, a couple folds in them, and there was a section for bio, psycho, and social. And then you put a DAP plan together, data action plan. That was it. Now go do good. You know, you're healed, you're cured. It's changed a lot. There's all kinds of electronic record keeping systems that we train them in now. So the commitment of an apprentice, it's extremely important that folks treat this as a job, because it is. We hire the apprentices on our payroll as temporary part-time employees while they're with us. So it's not just a program they're going to, there are employees, we hire them. So when it comes time for them to transition to a full-time permanent position, it's a really easy transfer for us because they've already been hired. It's just some paperwork shuffling. We require that everybody has full participation in the program. You must follow all program policies and procedures. It's a job, so you must be on time. If you're going to be late, you got to call. We want to really treat these folks as if they are regular employees, because they are. So our commitment to you is providing a thorough introduction to careers in behavioral health treatment, provide an introduction to take the first steps in this career, qualify program participants to be successful, and upon successful completion, we give them a job. Most of the entry-level jobs that we have that they'd be eligible for start around $25, $27 an hour, and that's pretty darn good money for entry-level. So we're excited about this opportunity. So again, we have 3 tracks: substance use counselor, case management, and community health workers. The start dates for the next cohorts are all listed. We're actively recruiting as we speak for our next cohorts. Let me just go ahead and put out this invitation now. You guys are all cordially invited to our graduation December 18th at 986 Mission Street, 10 o'clock in the morning. I've invited Supervisor Dorsey to come, so he'll be there. I love that guy. You guys know Supervisor Dorsey? What a great guy. Anyway, it's going to be a big deal. We're going to celebrate the accomplishments of our folks, and if you can come and you want to meet them, and maybe there's an opportunity for you to bring some of your people with you, so that they can see what we do, so they can see what the celebration looks like at the end of somebody's hard work. So for folks to apply to be an apprentice with us, all they got to do is send an email to that email down at the bottom, intern@healthright360.org. That's step number 1. Myself or my colleague, Miss Gabby, will reach out to that person and send them a pre-screen questionnaire. Once they fill that out and send it back to us, we will reach back out to them, have a conversation, and then send them next steps. So not only am I here to talk about the apprenticeship program, but I'm also here to let folks know that we also have a lot of jobs available. If folks go to our website, they can see a myriad of opportunities. We have counselor positions, recovery coaches. I'm not going to read those. You can read them yourself. We have tons of opportunities. So if you are working with folks that are looking for employment, go check out our website, HealthRIGHT360.org. There are so many opportunities. Not everybody there is a counselor. We have cook positions, driving positions, warehouse positions. There's so many different opportunities. And I, for one, can't speak highly enough about HealthRIGHT 360. It's an amazing organization. We have tons and tons of staff. Our leader, Vitka Eisen, is an amazing lady. She's in recovery herself. She went from being a client to CEO. It's really, really powerful. She's an amazing woman. So if you ever have an opportunity to meet her and shake her hand, please do. We offer benefits to our employees, all that good stuff, training and professional development opportunities. So to apply for regular full-time employment, like I mentioned, folks should just go to healthright360.org, scroll down all the different jobs, maybe use the filter to filter just Bay Area, because again, we have sites all the way down to Escondido. All right. You guys have seen that building. You've driven by it. That's our flagship building. That's 1563 Mission. That houses our medical, dental, outpatient, IT, and a couple of other things as well.
Excellent.
There we go.
Thank you so much, Jamie, for sharing your story and this incredible work that you do. We'd like to open it up for questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Hello. I have some mentees that I am trying to help with career.
Oh, fantastic.
Would love to send them your way. And I don't know how used to they are of the more challenging situations that some of the jobs in the range you shared would entail. And so I wonder if you have like a range of positions for every type of personality and, you know, desk job versus, you know, out,
So,
you know, really in the.
yes, as a matter of fact. So currently in our community health worker case management track, we have a young lady who is going through the program named Katrina. She's amazing. She has a retail background, very hospitable. They put her at the front desk of that building, 1563, and now she's the check-in person for people coming and going because she's so personable. With that being said, we're also making sure that she has an opportunity to get behind the scenes too and do and shadow a clinician because she wants to be a community health worker. So she's in the right place. She's at our medical office. So it's my job as well as my colleague's job, Gabby, to find out what is going to be the most suitable pathway for the folks based upon what we see, how they get down with us, how they interact, did they turn in their work, how is their work, what's the quality of it, all of these different things. We're paying attention for 3 months to make sure that they're going to be a good fit for the client-facing role. So for the case managers and the community health workers, it's a limited opportunity for entry-level positions. They're not going to go to some high-level position where they're in over their head. They would be, they have, I think they call client safety navigators over there at the Soma Rise program, for example. So we do have many different opportunities and different levels, but they're all going to come in at a ground floor level. Nothing that's too crazy.
Thank you.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Nikita. Happy birthday.
Thank you. So Kent in the back. Kent is, oh, anyway. Kent runs an organization called YWAM, or he helps facilitate an organization called YWAM, and we run Reimagine Recovery lunches and dinners. I'm telling you all of that to say that the last event that we had, we did a little bit of a workforce development event and asked people what kind of jobs that they would be interested in. We had so much support. The first event that we did had 150. This one had a little bit smaller of a turnout because we were doing resumes and headshots and those kinds of things. That's all a backing to say that most of the individuals that show up are still unhoused or are living in SROs. And to ask, what are some of the barriers to entry to enter into this program? What are some recommendations of clothing to wear for the interview, what they should be prepped for the interview, or what kind of educational background do they need?
Great question. So entry level, okay. See, this is where I need you. This is where I need you. I was thinking about something else while she was talking and I forgot half of your questions.
What kind of situations should they be?
Okay, there you go. Thank you. So the prerequisites to get into the program is you cannot be on active probation. You cannot be on active parole. You must have a high school diploma and or a GED. Those are the bare minimum entrance. Other than that, it's about how you conduct yourself. How are you able to interact when we have our conversation based on your pre-screen questionnaire? We don't really turn folks away per se unless they don't meet the minimum eligible requirements. And then, for example, if you get into the program and you start exhibiting behavior that is less than positive, we'll give you a performance improvement plan, things of that nature, and we'll try to get you back on the right path. But if that doesn't work, it doesn't work. Try again next cohort. As far as clothing, business casual, I have connections if they need interview clothes. You can reach out to me. I'm sure a lot of people in here do as well. So interview clothes are easy to find, but it's very casual. It's online, Zoom meetings. So, you only have to look good from here up. You could be in your pajamas, for God's sake. I think that answered your questions. Okay. Yes, sir.
I have a question. I'm also tall, 6'8".
With no hair.
Yeah, nice haircut. Yeah. I've been in and out of prison for 18 years, but for different reasons. I volunteer. I play basketball inside San Quentin Prison and other prisons. Yeah, it's super fun. Your story is really inspiring. I have so many friends with similar stories that are thriving. I hear about programs with yours, and our program, like, the guys that have gotten out, and there's lots and lots of them over the years. Now there's vibrant communities outside that are helping each other, and they're just doing really well, So, and I've been in the social services, basically working with other nonprofits, getting them to collaborate together, to work together, to, see if we can see the forest beyond the trees, and you've been at this a few years. Your organization sounds amazing. So glad you're here presenting. But how can we zoom out? It's like our program, our sports program, like we're not aware of a single guy that's gone back to prison after he's been part of the basketball program, because they get community and their lives get changed, because you have to be positive to play, basically. And then there's community on the outside, and it's a vibrant community. You have us who are professionals who can write letters for them that helps. They've got guys who are formerly out who can support them. So if they start to falter, they got someone to come around side them. Okay. But then you look at the whole, and overall, we're suck at this as a society, 80% fail rate, of 80% recidivism. How can we zoom out and project a future 5-10 years from now where we solve this problem? So I just want to throw this question to you and say, what can we do to do better, to go beyond just wonderful stories in the midst of overall, if we're honest, we're losing the war, or we have been up till now? How can we change the trajectory so that 5-10 years from now, prison recidivism is 5% rather than 80%?
If I had the answer to that question, I would not be standing here right now. I'd be sitting in an ivory tower someplace just, thank you first off for that question. It's an amazing question. I think you pretty much alluded to the fact that folks need community. They need people to be able to return home to. I have a question for you. You say you work out at San Quentin. Are you familiar with No More Tears, the program that's out there ran by Mick Gardner?
Probably if I saw a face, I would know him.
Huge brother, bald head, just like me, light skin. You'd recognize him if you saw him. Anyway, make sure you try to connect with him next time you're out there. He's
I'll
doing
be
the
there
same kind of
Saturday.
work.
So yeah.
Fantastic. He does amazing work like you.
No More Tears.
So what we do together, is we try to make sure that folks have a soft landing when they do get home. Mick has a clothing closet. He offers them clothes when they get home. We try to connect them, we connect them with different social services. We make sure that they have housing, which is not easy, as you know, but we utilize our resources and dig deep to try to find housing for them. One of the things that I'm proud about working at HealthRIGHT is we have residential housing out on Treasure Island for formerly incarcerated folks. So having folks start the process while they're incarcerated so that when they get out, it's a softer landing and it's smoother. I mean, I can only speak from personal experience, having failed 4 times, and then the 5th time I listened to somebody who said, do it this way, and it worked. You have to be willing. You have to be able to put the blinders on, because the second you get home, you got $200 in your pocket, minus however much you had to pay on the Greyhound to get home. Whatever money you got left, that's just temptation. So you have to make sure that when you do get home, that landing is met with a friendly hand and a hug, so that you're not instantly just like, okay, I've got $75 for a hotel room and the rest is party money. You know what I mean? That's pretty much the way that we've lived and the way that we continue to live when we get out, because it's a setup. $200, there you go. Sometimes they give you a bus ticket, sometimes they don't. So it's just about creating community. You know, that's the short answer. Creating community, doing what you're doing. Folks who show up here, this is the solution.
Well, my answer is it's collaboration in the same way that you and the people on the ground need community. We as service providers need community, and it's got to go beyond the professionals. It's got to be everyone. And that's, to put a plug in, that's what we're trying to do here at We Heart SF. We believe we can model something here in San Francisco. Everyone coming into alignment. I believe our policies are really suck overall, but I think we can influence policy, and we're doing that. And I think we can model something here in the next 5 to 10 years that will change California and change the world. So
I hope you're right.
So you
you.
mentioned your friend Mick. Who are some of the other organizations and other people that you know that are really helping and building bridges with your efforts? Who are the people that you partner up with? How do you house people with food? How do you take care of them when they come into your program? Who do you work with?
Well, I know for feeding our folks in all of our different programs throughout San Francisco, they rely heavily on the food bank. So that's one partner. We work very closely with ECS in San Francisco, Episcopal Community Services. We work very close with them. They're a feeder site. I was actually hoping one of my colleagues would be able to come with me today so they could speak more about this part of the stuff, because I don't know all the answers. I just have the answers for my apprenticeship program and then just some small basic knowledge. But we partner with most CBOs in San Francisco simply because we are one of the bigger organizations. We have the medical facility, we have the dental. So when folks are in a program throughout the city and they need to send them for care, they send them to us. I wish I could give you more details other than that, but we do indeed partner with most of the CBOs and many of them throughout the city.
I have a question. So if somebody decided right now that they were ready to enter a recovery program, could they walk in the doors of HealthRIGHT 360, and what would that experience look like?
Yes, they absolutely could. Whether or not they would be guaranteed bed space that same exact day is not a guarantee, because housing and bed space is the biggest issue, as we know. But again, it's all about timing. There's a constant turnover within our programs. We have something called Soma Rise, which is downtown, which is kind of a drop-in homeless shelter per se, unhoused shelter, I guess I should say, actually. So folks may be able to walk literally right into a bed that day if somebody has left and they've transitioned to a live-in facility, for example. So at bare minimum, even if we don't have bed space, we can definitely give them referrals to services so they can try to stay clean while they're waiting for us to be able to provide them with a bed space.
Excellent. Thank you.
I had a quick, oh, it's loud. I had a quick question. It's more just pragmatic. When you're at Walden House and you're, not you specifically, but generally, when someone is drug addicted, what's the protocol medically for getting them off? Do you have, like, are they monitored by a nurse or a doctor when they
Oh, yeah.
when they do withdrawal?
Absolutely. We have a medical staff, and if somebody is coming, all right. So I only know a tiny bit about this part based upon what I do there. But back when I was there originally, I know that they would take somebody. We had doctors at the facilities. We had medication that we dispensed. Now that they're working with folks who are detoxing from opiates, for example, they have medically induced detoxes that are going to assist them and make a smoother, softer landing. Harm reduction is the key word in San Francisco. When I was getting clean, it was abstinence-based. You didn't get high anymore. We didn't give you a clean pipe.
Well,
you know?
that's my question, because we had somebody come in last week with that situation. But when you, like, it's a medical word, titrate. Did they slowly wean you off this stuff? How did they get you off of?
So I was addicted to cocaine, and I was in prison. So when I got out, I went through treatment while I was locked up. So me personally, I didn't have to deal with any of that kind of stuff. But folks today, it's much, much more serious, much more intense, because the drugs that they're using are actually physically addicting versus just mentally addicting with cocaine for me. This is stuff that folks, they're literally chasing daily because they have to have it or they get sick. So, God bless those people, you know what I mean? The folks who make it on through the other side. But I do know once they make it to HealthRIGHT 360, we will help them with a soft landing and medically induced detox.
Because I do know that with some of the drugs they're on now, they could literally die. They can literally die. Like if they're on enough methadone and street drugs and they're coming off at once and they're vomiting and they're diarrhea, they get so dehydrated. And so I just didn't, but you guys probably have a doctor or somebody that checks on them. And
We have a full medical staff.
Okay.
Absolutely.
yeah, it's really serious deal. That is something, it's just interesting to me, but yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on.
Background like you, I was an addict, but not substance abuse. I was a gambler. So the same symptoms. So I'm involved in a ministry in the peninsula. It's called Higher Power. It have been going for 33 years. And we see these people coming from programs, and our goal, and as even the AA book on all the 12 steps, is the problem is more spiritual. The symptoms of addiction, the addiction is the symptoms of the need inside. So our goal is just to bring them to relationship with higher power, with God, and we saw miracles happening through that. And we have many people. We have the problem how after this how we can help them. So one question: most of them, they are in a program. So if they want to come work with you, they need a place to stay, and you answer that, just like to find. So is there is opportunity for, we bring these people to you, and if there is housing, there will be housing, or they start a program with you. If they, I know many of them, they would love to have $20 an hour while be trained, but the housing is the issue. So what do you think about this?
I think that you're spot on. Unfortunately, for this particular program, for the apprentice, we don't have housing that we're offering for folks. With that being said, that doesn't mean that somebody who is unhoused couldn't join our program. So
My question was, you're speaking about addiction. You got sober in prison. My niece just got sober in prison, and praise God, jail, I think. Anyways, she's out. She's doing well. Praise God. This is probably anecdotally. I was listening to one of the incarcerated brothers share a story about how he got sober in prison, but he was in there for 7 years staying addictive. How hard is it, or how easy is it to get drugs in prison to stay addictive, and how easy is it for them to get off of them in prison?
drugs are easy to get in prison. They just cost way more than you'd imagine. Way more than you'd imagine. Everything that's on the street is in prison. Cell phones, methamphetamine, marijuana, crack. It's a lot of heroin, a lot of tar. I had a cellie who did heroin in my cell with me when I was in there with him. You want to try some? Oh, no, I'm good. Thank you, bro. Literally. I can't imagine being addicted to something that heavy and be incarcerated and trying to kick by yourself, because you can't ask for help. You're not supposed to be on drugs, right? You just got to deal with it and go through the pain and the suffering. For me, when I was locked up, I might have smoked weed once or twice, but each time I was there, I was trying my best to shake my addiction. So while I was there, I didn't want to use more. You know what I mean? Even though when I got out, I failed miserably, while I was there, I was trying to stay focused. So for me, it wasn't an issue, but I did see a lot of it going on while I was out there. And another important piece to talk about is, if you involve yourself in those circles inside the penitentiary, you're setting yourself up for failure, because the second you can't pay somebody, they're coming to get you. It's just not a pretty scene, as you can imagine.
Well, follow-up question. I think what I found from my understanding and a bit of research, that your story, my niece's story is probably more of the norm. People go to prison, they're more likely to, you know, they want to turn around. They're sober, they get sober. It's easier to get sober in prison than it is on the streets. Okay. They're really vulnerable when they're released. And what's in the technical terms called a warm handoff is the key. And I think, how can we do better as that? Because I think overall, you know, we have organizations like yours and others, but like my niece, it was a nightmare story of her getting out and finding a place to go for her. And the societies that do a better job of making sure the transitions are smooth have much better outcomes. I think that's one of the areas we can greatly improve. What are your thoughts on that? How we can do a better job of making that transition much smoother?
So I used to work for an organization called SASCA, Substance Abuse Services Coordinating Agency. My job was to identify people who were incarcerated in the prison system who wanted to do better when they got out. And it was my job to find them a program so that when they got out, we picked them up and delivered them directly to the program. So I don't know that SASCA is around anymore, but SASCA was actually under the umbrella of Walden House many years ago. I transitioned from Walden House directly to SASCA. They were in the same building. I don't know if there's funding for that anymore, but maybe, just maybe, if you or somebody else did the same exact thing and created a new program that picked folks up and dropped them off at their, new home, for lack of better words, that would be the warm handoff that we're looking for. Mick Gardner, the gentleman that I mentioned earlier, he does that. He picks people up from San Quentin and he drops them off at programs. He's not, well, he's a nonprofit, but he's not getting paid like SASCA would, for example. So I think maybe creating a nonprofit that did exactly that, that would definitely reduce recidivism. As you know and I know, if we pick them up, take them straight there, there's no wiggle room. They didn't have a chance to veer left or right because we dropped them off. It's that critical first couple of days, literally, when folks get lost. You either do right or you do wrong, because when you get out, you got $200 in your pocket and no house half the time. You got to figure it out. And that's when your survival skills come into play. And if you're a hustler, that's when you start hustling. And next thing you know, you hustled yourself right back to the penitentiary. So I just think that folks like you who understand the issue, you can help solve it.
Okay, let's do one last question and then we'll
Are
wrap
we
it up.
really eating up this whole time?
You're doing great. Woo!
I had no idea. I'm like, okay, I got 15 minutes for you.
Thank you so much. I'm just following up on all of these questions. It seems like it's clear what people need in order to thrive after they leave prison. And yet no policies actually address that.
Prison industrial complex.
Yeah. So, I mean, today is probably not the right day to talk about change in that direction. However, I'm curious, does I'm just like blanking on the name, your organization, HealthRIGHT, or others work to actually suggest or put policy in place where people are actually getting picked up and not leaving prison in order to simply go back, or have these medical issues that will keep them from being able to afford housing or food or what the things that they need?
We have a policy department.
Okay.
So the short answer is yes. We have folks who are literally under the umbrella of HealthRIGHT 360 that are consistently and constantly out there trying to push policy, trying to do exactly what we're talking about, but it's one issue at a time. And perhaps today that issue is not being discussed. But like the gentleman in the back said, we know that it's a problem. If we know there's a problem and we have the ability to fix it, why aren't we? Right? There's enough intelligence in this room where we could have that up and running in 6 months. There's enough intelligence in this room. We could find the money to fund it for 6 months just to prove that it's going to work. I'll be the driver. I'll pick them up and drop them off, on my days off, of course.
So one of the challenges that I ran into, I know one last question, is the folks that reach out to folks and have some success in prison itself, they're not allowed to do follow-up. They can't follow the person or work with them after they get out of prison. There's rules of engagement, so they can't be in contact with the family. So all the good work they do inside the prison has to stay inside the prison, and they got to start all over again when they get out. There needs to be a warm handoff. I know basketball gives you an informal network, but there needs to be a cleaner way where people that work with you and reach you inside prison can be allowed for a transitional handoff so that you're not dropping them off at the door and wishing them good luck, but you're walking them into a program. We need policy changes that don't assume the negative when you finally work with someone in a positive way.
I agree with you 100%.
And we need to work on that policy, right?
Agreed. Agreed. So I think what we're gathering from today's session is we need to pick up a couple buses, or excuse me, long vans that will fit a few people, and we need to figure it out. You know, there's a prison right over there, San Quentin. We could start there. It's local. We could even do, you know, county jails that are local, and we could pick people up and we could drop them off. It's really not that hard.
So we should build an Uber for folks being released from jail and prison.
Send
to
a
make
Waymo there to pick them up. They
That's
won't
a
rob the
Waymo.
driver. You know, there's no driver.
Got a hackathon this weekend, so maybe we should work on that.
Well, in closing, Jamie, is there anything that you would like to say?
So again, one of my main purposes for being here is for recruitment. I have some flyers here that if you're interested in a flyer so that you can reach me. I don't have a business card yet. I'm fairly new to the organization, but I have flyers. If you have folks that are interested in joining our apprenticeship programs, please take a flyer. Please have them reach out to me. I'll do everything in my power to help them be successful. Thank you guys for your
Thank you
attention.
so much, Jamie. Thank you. It's a pleasure.